Welcome to the Westminster Effects Doxology Podcast, where we exist for the glory of God and the tone of his people. I'm Cody Fields. Go buy stuff for your guitar at westminstereffects.com. Join the discussion in the Westminster Effects Green Room on Facebook and like, subscribe, all that good stuff. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Instagram, TikTok if you hate yourself. I am joined in person by...
Hey everybody, Bradley Cox, pastor at Resurrection Church in Greer, South Carolina.
And via the interwebs by...
I almost said ahoy. I'm just going to say it. Ahoy! John Ross here, the Admiral of Augsburg. Glad to be back on the program.
Yes, sir. Nautical references galore.
Yar.
So John's on a little time crunch, so let's see how much we can get done here. So I have seen, and maybe it's just because I keep clicking on them on Facebook. It's probably the algorithm, but I have been exposed to a glut of bad Easter promotions. Mm-hmm. Have y'all?
Yeah, I've got a few. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you, John?
I don't spend much time on social media anymore, so thankfully no, although I've seen my fair share in my day.
Yeah. So I figured let's look at a couple and talk about it. Fair?
Fair.
Okay. So the setup today, I'm just going to take a picture of it because it's stupid. I forgot my wife's laptop, which is what we normally use with a camera and a teleprompter and all that stuff for whenever we have John or a guest or whatever. So this is all janky. So those of you watching, this is going to look really weird as my hand gets enormous as I have to click on things. Anyway, so this first clip is from Foothills Church here in South Carolina. I think they're in Seneca, multi-campus thing. As far as I can tell, they're Orthodox.
Okay.
So we're not questioning anyone's salvation. Mm-hmm. Just get that out of the way. So here we go.
Katie, why are you dancing?
Better question, Kevin. Why are you not?
Because I'm not about to look foolish.
Well, you don't know what you're missing.
Missing. That makes me think about Easter at Foothills. You know how many people are going to miss Easter at Foothills just because they think the whole idea is foolish?
Wait, isn't that in the Bible?
Yep. 1 Corinthians says that the cross looks foolish to people who don't believe.
That's right. Well, they don't know what they're missing.
Literally, over 2 billion people around the world believe in this enough to show up to church and celebrate on Easter. They don't care if they look foolish. What if the fear of looking foolish is keeping you from the most important truth in the entire history of the world? Wouldn't you want to know about it?
I think it's worth checking out. Don't miss Easter at Foothills.
Service locations and times are below.
Come on, Kevin, dance.
All right, we'll see you there.
Woo!
That's a choice.
Yep. That is certainly one of the Facebook reels of all time.
I mean, the message. All right.
Right.
Like,
right. It is Orthodox.
Yeah.
Squishy,
like,
but Orthodox.
Do not conform to the ways of this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Like, yeah. Okay. Don't be afraid of how you look. Right. Don't be afraid about what other people may judge you for.
Right. So I am going to assume, I looked them up. This is the pastor and his wife. So I'm going to assume they're good people who love their church.
Yeah.
100%.
But they did misquote the Bible there. It doesn't say that the cross is foolishness to those who don't believe. It says the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved is the power of God unto salvation.
Yeah.
There is an enormous difference there.
Yeah.
And that's where you get into the method really does matter. And the method is influenced by your soteriology. If God truly is sovereign over who gets saved and how, then that will affect your approach. And if you think it's up to conjuring up a free will decision, basically convincing people to be to turn over a new leaf or whatever, this is what that results in down the road.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that is the from just like what they said from that standpoint. That one doesn't bother me nearly as much as some of the others I've seen.
Right.
I honestly like this is there's a couple of things that annoy me about church ads. Obviously when it's not orthodox or it's just, I don't know. The other thing that annoys me is when things are just a little bit obnoxious and silly.
Yes.
I love that they're excited about their church. This couple may be doing a fantastic job.
Right.
And I don't want to be overly critical of that at all. I just feel like sometimes we feel this pressure to compete, and convince people to come, that ends up, I don't know, it ends up leading us into silliness. Now, if that's, and maybe you sit down with this couple and you go, hey, we were just trying to have fun and this is their personality, and maybe that comes across as a little obnoxious to some people.
Fine. Yeah.
That's fine with me. I don't really, I don't really have an issue with that. But you know what, sometimes I feel like churches are borderline begging people to come and be present. I actually had a conversation with our staff yesterday about attendance. We've been looking at our numbers. Our church is growing. We're having parking issues. We have space issues in various areas and whatnot. So we've just been kind of weighing that, trying to be prepared for Sunday. And, I think Sunday's attendance was it was a little over 400. And we, I said to the staff, I said, I'm not inclined to think that we're going to have a huge spike in attendance on Easter.
Yeah.
I think, if I had to guess, I think we'll probably be somewhere between 475, 500 people, on Easter Sunday, a little bit higher than we were this past Sunday. Because we don't have a culture where we're trying to, target Easter Sunday as this big promotional event.
Right.
That's just not the culture of our church. And I think that's, in my opinion, that's the better thing. It's that we're a body of believers gathering every Lord's Day, and this particular Lord's Day, we're going to emphasize the resurrection of Christ, as they said in the video. It's the greatest news ever. That's absolutely right.
Yep.
But it just feels like they're trying a little bit too hard.
This is more of a form over substance.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think there's this trend on TikTok of doing silly dances and things like that. And, that is kind of what they were trying to model, I think, looking to serve their demographic without directly identifying it. Obviously, I'm sure maybe there'll be some others that we watch that'll lead with, a clip from Passion of the Christ or from The Chosen or something and be like, this could be you, for instance.
So, all right. Next example. All right. So I'm going to hit pause in the middle of this. This is from Action Church in Canton, Georgia. I'm going to pause it before we get to Keith Foskey's response.
Yeah.
Because Foskey's response is golden. John, have you seen this?
Mm-mm.
Okay, here we go.
What's up, guys? Gary Lamb, lead pastor of Action Church in Canton, Georgia. Did you realize that Easter Sunday is on 420 this year? Got the munchies? We got a hot breakfast ready to be served at 9:15. We'd love to have you as our personal guest on Easter Sunday at Action Church.
May my prayer rise before you as incense. The lifting up of my hands is the evening sacrifice.
I had the thought, I'm just going to let John respond to that because it's going to be good.
All right, let's let Keith Foskey respond to this because his parody of this is just too good.
What's up, y'all? I'm Pastor Chad with the Big Eva Multiplex Megachurch in Mini Mall. I want to point out that I have my hat on backwards and I'm wearing sunshades that proves I'm both contemporary and relevant. I'm here to personally invite you to one of our 27 services at our 9 different campuses where this Easter our theme is making everyone totally holy. And our youth event, which we call Come Rave About Christian Kids. And don't forget our singles mixer on Good Friday night People connecting people. At BEMMM, we truly have something for everyone. For the men, we've got boys engaging energetic righteousness, and for the ladies, we've got women instigating necessary energy. Just know we are all about you getting your holy high on this Easter. Are you down with GOD? Hey, you know me. Join us on 420. Oh, and for our friends in the cartels, that's Cuatro Vente. Because at the Big Eva Multiplex and Mini Ball, se habla Espanol.
Oh, that went so many directions.
Yeah. Keith Foskey is a national treasure.
That is brilliant.
If one of these megachurch pastors puts out a hit on him, we'll know who it is, right?
Boys engaging energetic righteousness. That, I mean, oh man.
I think honestly, that is the most appropriate response, is to just laugh at it. Just make fun of it. Right? Like, if it's dumb, just laugh at it. Like,
yeah, I mean, you know, the guy in Canton, I mean, maybe he, I don't know. Like, was that a real thing, or was he himself like doing some kind of parody? Was that a real attempt at trying to be cool, or was he just doing something that in his mind is funny?
Right. So let's let him speak for himself.
We are who we are. I am who I am. To quote the great theologian Dusty Rhodes, I've ate with kings and queens, and I've dined in alleyways on pork and beans. Here's the deal. I've done this church thing for a long time. The biggest church in this city I started. When I lost that church going into our 5th year, it was the 16th fastest growing church in America. There's no place I'd rather be than right here. 13 years in, 12 years in, whatever it is, I gave up the opinions of the religious a long time ago. So here's the deal. We're going to laugh around here. We're going to crack jokes around here. And the person you see on stage on Sunday is going to be the same person you see Monday through Saturday. So if
let me interject there. We're going to laugh around here and crack jokes around here. We laugh and crack jokes around here a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But what's the front porch of our church? Like, our tagline is, you know, it's puritanical, for the glory of God and the tone of his, or
the tone of
and,
his
and the joy of his people.
Right.
For the glory of God and the joy of his people. Our front porch is God's glory on display in Jesus Christ. Period.
Yeah.
On the back half, the result of that is we have a good sense of humor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if me making a video, making fun of or laughing about the fact that Easter is on 420 this year offends people, that's their issue. And I said all that to say this. Let me remind you, we don't engage with religious assholes. You take the high road. Do not get online and argue. All they want is for you to argue with them. Most of those people are living in their mom's basement, sitting on their phone, looking to argue about theology that they know nothing about and they sure as hell don't live out. They want you to engage with them. Here's what we do. We love God and we love people. We started this church for those who don't do church. We don't apologize for that. We will never apologize for that. And 13 years in, we will never change that. That being said, I also have a sense of humor, and I was sitting in the office, thought it was funny. 2 hours later, the video was made. There's way too much thought put into it. If you don't know what we're talking about, you should thank Jesus that you don't know what we're talking about.
All right, that's enough of that. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there was backlash, like, on the comment threads and what have you.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't read any of that. He's not responding to Keith Foskey. He's responding to.
I mean, he might be, but
I mean, if I'm in his shoes and I see Keith Foskey's parody of it, I think that's pretty funny.
Yeah,
like, I mean,
that's good parody.
That's good parody. I don't know what the backlash is, but he's angry.
Right.
He's angry, and I don't know like if there's dissension in his church about it. You know, like there's a lot of context we would need to, you know, understand his emotions right here. But he seems angry, and you know, we could nitpick this. We could pick this apart. We started this church for people that don't do church. Okay, I mean, you know, there's questions I would want to ask about that statement. You know, if you're trying to be relatable, that's fine, I guess. I think you just have to question, you know, how relatable we want to be. Again, honestly, I wish this people like this would just go, hey, I had the thought in my office. 2 hours later, I made the video. I was just being funny. Let's move on. I mean, like, I might have more respect for that than for him to feel like he's got to get up on a stump and make a speech about it, right? I don't know.
He used the platform that's reserved for preaching and teaching to defend himself over something that shouldn't have been defended. Also, an ovation in 2025. Come on.
Where is that? I didn't even notice that.
It's right behind him.
Oh.
That's probably the most egregious part.
Oh, wow.
Here, the exception I take to what he says. So he talks about, we'll just say, religious buttholes who sure aren't living out as if he knows.
Right.
He goes straight for an ad hominem attack, and then he turns around and says, "We love God and we love people." Well, it sounds like you don't love all of them.
Yeah.
There's certain people that it sounds like you don't like.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this, let's just call it antinomian streak in so many of these types of churches goes off the rails, is they don't actually want to be all things to all people. They want to be some things to some people that they've targeted through a demographic study. And that's about it. As opposed to saying, hey, we are a community of worshiping believers. And like, I'm going to invite people to church on Sunday who don't normally come to church. It's a pretty convenient time to do that. I do that anyway, though.
Yeah.
You know, because the gathering of the saints on the Lord's Day is not meant biblically to be an evangelistic event.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. I think in the church world, you know, there's, and this is, you know, something that's come about in the last, you know, 20, 30, 40 years is you got to maximize Easter. You know, it's church growth motivated. It's butts in the seats. That's what a lot of these ads are about. I mean, you know, and yes, you could say there's an evangelistic initiative there. We want to get unsaved people to come to church, and hopefully present the gospel to them in such a way that they will make a believing choice to join the faith and us. Okay. I just think, you know, it feels a bit bait and switch to me. It feels gimmicky, and to me, it cheapens, you know, like what we're actually gathering this Sunday, which, you know, we do every Sunday, but this Sunday in particular to celebrate the resurrection of Christ. And, you know, what's the front porch of that? Well, it's an ad with a Snoop Dogg riff and, you know, something about weed. I don't know. I guess maybe to some guys like this, we sound like religious a-holes and, you know, old crotchety, you know, starchy, Bible thumpers. I don't know. To me, I've just gotten to the point where I look at stuff like this and I just kind of shake my head and move on. And, you know,
I think
I'm not interested in, you know, lobbing, bombs at churches like this. You know, if that's what you want to do, go ahead. When you get backlash, don't stand up, you know, on the Lord's Day in the pulpit and start calling people a-holes and, you know, whatever. I just, to me, that's a loss all the way around.
It doesn't scream sanctification. It doesn't scream bearing fruit, right? It's not pastoral, and that's not saying, you know, elevating the pastorate, but it's not that shepherding role, right? Which is the origin of the word and the origin of kind of the understanding of the role. And Bradley, you hit on the gimmicky part. That's exactly what it is, even if it was a joke or not, because what people need is they don't need, drug related jokes on social media, from a church. They need Christ and him crucified. Mm-hmm. And I just don't see how you could bridge. Like, our contemporary service stemmed from desiring to reach more into the unchurched, de-churched population. In a sense, of course, evolved from that. But I don't see how you can make the bridge from that post to church attendance. I don't see it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I appreciate about our approach here is in our membership class, my dad, who is our connections pastor, within the first 5 minutes of the class says, a lot of people will come in and ask us, what's your outreach plan? And his answer is, you are. Right? Like, this is how it works. It's never in the history of the church until like 5 minutes ago has it been, make sure to get them in church so they can hear the gospel. No, You should be equipped. Your pastors, your elders, teachers, whatever, should be equipping you to go out to do the work of the ministry. We shouldn't be relying on the professional to give a polished presentation. Just go spread the gospel. Go do the thing.
I mean, if from the pulpit you're always catering, is a little insensitive, but you're always presenting things in a way that the unlearned can grasp, right? You're never giving the rest of the congregation the opportunity to get more depth into the understanding of what makes up their faith and the systems that's kind of surround it, and how we understand it.
Good stuff. What you got, Bradley?
I think, it's worth admitting that we live in an over-advertised society.
Yes.
Marketing is a big thing everywhere. And, I'm not saying that churches shouldn't promote, but I think we need to be careful that we don't cross a line that I think Paul hits on in 2 Corinthians chapter 2. I'll just read, beginning of verse 14. He says, "Thanks be to God who always leads us in triumph in Christ and manifests through us the sweet aroma of the knowledge of him in every place." That's interesting language. The aroma of Christ. For we are a fragrance of Christ to God among those who are being saved and among those who are perishing. To the one, an aroma from death to death, to the other, an aroma from life to life. And who is adequate for these things? For we are not like many peddling the word of God, but as from sincerity, but as from God, we speak in Christ in the sight of God. I just, if you're going to market, if you're going to promote, if you're going to try to draw a crowd, there are just countless numbers of ways to draw a crowd and be successful at it. That doesn't mean that real ministry is taking place. But I think if you're going to market, if you're going to make silly videos, if you're going to, be happy and dancing and kind of pulling on people's sense of FOMO to get them to church on Easter Sunday, fine. I just would suggest, with all sincerity, run that through the filter of the call for us to be the aroma of Christ to the living and the perishing. Like, that's at the bottom of it's got to be at the bottom of everything that we do. And I don't think silly videos are, something that couldn't fold into that.
Sure.
On some level. In fact, I was having a conversation with Steven just yesterday about, he had some ideas for like silly videos we could make. And we talked about, well, maybe we could do something like that this summer and just post it on our private Facebook group just for fun. Right. Not because we're trying to promote an event or we're trying to bait and switch people into coming to church. It's just fun. And I think that's okay. I think Jesus had fun in the ways that were normative, and obviously not sinful. in his day with his disciples. Yep. Maybe he cut a loud fart and laughed with the boys about it.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't put that past the Lord, who took on flesh and blood and was made like us in every way, yet without sin. So, but if you're going to do this, and it's going to be, contextualized as being evangelistic in nature, and we want to reach people who don't do quote unquote typical church in this part of the world, I just would run it through that filter. Are we being the aroma of Christ here, or are we doing something just to be edgy that really only results in backlash and wasting pulpit time on the Lord's Day?
Yep. Any last thoughts for you, John?
If we are trying to reach into the hearts of those who have been romanced by the world, what they need not is more of the world.
Yeah, that's good.
An unlikely source, but a pretty chaotic hardcore band that I enjoy called Every Time I Die has a line, "The world made us sick. How can it heal us?" Which is more truth than you get in a lot of Christian music, right?
So true.
Just stop giving them more of what they've been guzzling.
Yeah.
So what you win them with is what you win them to. And if what you win them with is Christ and him crucified, you get more of that. But if you win them with goofiness, you get more goofiness, and don't be surprised when it happens. So if you're in the upstate of South Carolina, come hang out with us on Sunday at Resurrection Church in Greer.
Yeah.
It's not going to be silly.
Yep.
But it's going to be a great time.
Drive as few cars as possible to get here too.
Also,
we're running out of
our
parking.
parking is tight.
And
John,
if you happen to be one of the 3 listeners thereabouts from the greater Nebraska area, Christ Lincoln services at 8, 9:30, and 11, celebrating resurrection service on the Lord's Day.
Are you leading worship, John? Are you playing?
I'm on lead guitar. I led
Awesome.
for Palm Sunday, which is by far my favorite. We do that old Jeremy Riddle tune, "Prepare the Way of the Lord," so it gives me Godspell vibes. Good stuff. But if I don't see it before then, happy Easter. He is risen.
Amen. He's risen.
He is risen indeed. Go love God, love your neighbor, make some music. We'll see you next time.